Hi, welcome to Safra's World. My name is Safra, and this is my world. Today I want to talk a little bit about amusement parks because we're coming into amusement park season. Of course, for those of you in warm climates, it never stops. Like if you live in Florida or whatever, Disney's 365 days a year. Here in Ontario, we have a park called Canada's Wonderland. It was Paramount Canada's Wonderland. It's gone through many name changes over the years, but it's an amazing amusement park, and I've been going there since it was built in the 80s. And so this year, they're premiering a brand new coaster. It's a dive coaster, and it's called Yukon Striker. And so you go straight up and straight down, and then you're on it for a few minutes. And I cannot wait. I love roller coasters. I am a roller coaster junkie. I'm terrified of heights, but I love the speed of the roller coaster. So I always have to go up, and like I close my eyes, or I freak out, or I just try and stare at the car in front of me, or whatever, to try not to really see the height on those first hills. And then once the ride gets going, it's just so much fun. Leviathan, Behemoth. Last year I went on Behemoth as a day where they were just closing, and it was late in the season, so there were no lines. So we went on it 3 times, and then I wanted to go on it a 4th time, and then my son's like, "Mom, there's other rides." So that was pretty amusing that my son was telling me we don't have to go on Behemoth 4 times in a row. It's too much. So I'm a kid at heart. However, what does distress me and upset me is, amusement parks getting a bad rap for being dangerous. Now, I don't know how other amusement parks are run, but I know Canada's Wonderland has mountains of safety checks. For instance, this Yukon Striker that, they've been building since last summer, and now it's finished. They've been test running that baby for since February or March or whenever, because I follow it on Instagram, and they're testing it with dummies. And then the park opens for season pass holders a week from Friday. I'm not sure if I'll get there that day because of work, but it's coming. Opening days in May, like in a couple weeks. So that ride will be super safety tested and ready to go. And they test the rides every day before the park opens, and then once during the day. I know this because one time I lost my purse on what used to be called, oh my God, the brain is gone. At the time it was a brand new coaster, and I went on it and had a fanny pack, and my fanny pack blew off. And it had my glasses in it, because at the time I still wore glasses because I hadn't had laser eye surgery yet. And it flew off, and it landed in a puddle under the ride. But I wasn't, they wouldn't get the Top Gun. That's the ride, sorry. It's not called that. I think now it's called Flight Deck, but it was called Top Gun back when it was Paramount. And it's like good. It was the first hanging roller coaster, and you hang with your feet dangle, and it's a lot of fun, and it's still there. I still go on it. But my fanny pack flew off and landed in a puddle, and it must have fallen off pretty much when I went on the ride. The buckle must have been loose or whatever, because you could see it. And I'm like, it's right there. But they said no, they have safety thing where they shut down all the rides like at 4 o'clock and gather all the crap that's fallen, and at the time they inspect the ride and stuff, and then so they'll get my thing there. So I had to come back at 4. So I was walking through the park with a couple of little kids, blind as a bat, and no money, no car keys, nothing. But yeah, and then I went and got my purse, and all was well. So I know Wonderland, they're very strict about rides. They give the kids bracelets, they measure everyone, and so on. But so it really upset me when I saw a couple days ago, a celebrity talking about how he put Snicker bars in his kid's shoes to make her taller so she could ride the ride. And then when they were on the ride, he realized she was kind of slipping out. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, I see this all the time. It's not just that celebrity, but I'm like, there are, the park isn't trying to harsh your mellow, dude. Like, the park is not trying to be an asshole, not letting your kid on the ride. The park is trying to keep your kid from dying. Like, seriously, what is wrong with you people? Like, what is wrong with you? There are height and weight restrictions on rides, especially the giant rides or any ride, even a merry-go-round, for safety issues. There are seat belts for safety issues. If you're too fucking fat to get the seatbelt on, you don't go on the ride. You're endangering yourself, you're endangering everyone else. If you're too tall for the ride, don't ride the ride. You're going to get decapitated. If you're too small for the ride, you're going to fly out and get decapitated or killed or whatever. There are ride restrictions for a reason. And apparently this celebrity said, I didn't, I was scared when she started falling out and I didn't realize, that this was going to happen. And it's like, are you serious? Like, why do you think they have ride restrictions? It's not to piss you off. It's not so that your kid will cry and scream all the way home. It's so your kid doesn't die or you don't die. There are water slides at Wonderland, and they weigh you before you get on the slide. They weigh you, and the world sees your weight. And if you're too fucking fat, you don't get on the slide. And also, they weigh you because they balance the slide, because they have two people going down at once, and whatever their magic calculation is for a number of people and so on, they have reason for that, because this is all science and balance. And if you ever took science class, you know this. It's physics. Roller coasters, any ride is a thing of physics. That's which is why Wonderland always has physics classes come through before the park opens, and high schools go through and they do all these calculations and learn speed and height and weight and all that stuff, how to build a ride or whatever. It's all physics. It's all calculated. It's like they wouldn't let that woman walk on the moon because they didn't have a spacesuit her size. If they had crammed her into a spacesuit that wasn't her size, whether too big or too small, she would have died. She didn't sit there going, me, I'm going to put Snickers in my shoes so I can wear the man suit. Like, no, she knows she's going to die if she's in the wrong spacesuit. And so this is what pisses me off. And I've been through this myself. I took my kids to CNE, which is not Wonderland, but the CNE in Toronto, Canada National Exhibition, which is rides and stuff. I never go on rides there because they look scary to me, and plus they're very expensive, and I have the season's pass to Wonderland, so why bother? But anyways, when the kids were little, me and my older son went on a ride. He was the right height. They measured him. He was the right height, and maybe even an inch taller or two. And we went on this ride that does all this turning and shit. But the thing is, that son of mine is skinny. He was skinny. They didn't have a weight thing, and no one thought of it. But because of the way the ride was engineered, you're just kind of like in a seat, and it flips, and you're in like just kind of a harness. I can't even really remember, but some kind of harness. But he started falling out of the ride, slipping out underneath because of the centrifugal force and the this and the that's. And I was holding him back in. So even though he was the proper height for the ride, he wasn't the proper weight. But nobody knew. I told the guy when we got off, I'm like, dude, you need a weight thing or something, because my kid nearly slipped through the bars. And maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have, but he was falling and he was like upset. And so from that day, and he was like 8 or 9 at the time, I'm very aware of the height and weight restrictions. So I've been there because my kids are 4 years apart. So, you can go on the ride with one kid, but you can't with the other, and then you have to hear the scream, and the other parent, well, I never had another parent, but, someone waits with the kid, and, while the kid's screaming, and it's like, well, too bad, your brother doesn't have to suffer because you can't go on. You'll go on next year whenever, you're there, and it's something to look forward to, and it's hard for the balancing. I get it. I'm there. There's nothing worse than kids screaming at amusement parks. They want to go on a ride they're not tall enough for. But how are you doing your kid a favor? I'm thinking of that poor little boy on that water slide who got decapitated. Even though they tried to get on the ride 3 times, they kept getting turned away. Somehow they snuck him on, and he got decapitated. Gee, why do you think they turned him away 3 times? Like, fuck off. The only amusement horror story that I've heard that didn't seem to be the result of people trying to sneak kids on rides, or they're too fat for the ride and flew out, or too small for the ride and flew out, was the horrific case in I don't know which park it was, but I remember it was in Florida, probably a Six Flags park, and they have a ride called the Drop Zone, and it's probably Six Flags because Wonderland is part of the Six Flags thing now too. And we have a drop zone. And so what it is, it's a really tall tower. You're at the top, and then it just drops, and that's it. That's the ride. So it's like the first hill on a roller coaster. I've never been on it, never will, because, like I said, I hate heights. And to me, a ride just to go up, so you drop down and you don't get to go anywhere after that seems pointless and just far too scary for me. So, but these girls went on the drop zone, and it was a freak accident where the belt snapped loose and wrapped around her legs and amputated her feet. Boom, right there on the drop zone. And the saddest part of all is that she was a dancer. And with one of my sons being a dancer, I found that hugely traumatizing. I told him, don't go on the drop zone anymore. He still goes on it. But of course, it's not the same one. And that was a super freak accident. That was I've never read that there was any way that that could have been prevented or anything, except for maybe they don't do the safety rides, the safety checks. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. And that was many years ago, like 10 or 15 years ago. So don't be afraid of the drop zone. I'm sure they double, triple check it now if they even still have it at that particular park. Yeah, so my point of rambling is have a lot of fun at the amusement parks, at the water slide parks, and so on, but don't sneak on. Don't sneak on your kids. Don't sneak on yourself. Those guides are there for your safety so that you can have a fun day at the park. You don't lose a limb. You don't die. You don't get injured. You know, if you have a pacemaker, don't, read those signs. If you're pregnant, read those signs. If you have high blood pressure, read those signs, because they are there for your safety, not to bum out your day, but to keep you alive so that you can come back to the park and spend more money. Okay, so this is my public service announcement because I see it all the time in lines. Because I see it all the times. People sneaking their kids, trying to sneak their kids on rides, and it's like, luckily at Wonderland they're pretty strict. But it depends who's running the ride, right? Okay, have a great day and enjoy your amusement parks this summer.